Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me, Cocktails with Mark. I'm Mark Lamus. I'm the artistic director of the Westport Country Playhouse, and joining me for cocktails, holiday cocktails, are two of my absolutely favorite actors. We have spent lots of time in the theater together, decades. Maya Dillon and Keir Dullea. Welcome, Maya. Welcome, Keir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. But I would like to take this moment to compliment you on your radio production of Christmas Carol. I'm old enough that when I was brought up as a kid, my only drama that I ever experienced was radio drama. All of it. There was no television, and I loved it because your imagination would take over in a way that it's not literal the way video is. It's anything that is created by people's voices. And I actually got in the 60s the opportunity to do some radio drama myself with CBS radio drama. That I can't remember.
That's what it reminded me of. We listened together on Saturday.
I really know good radio when I hear it, and you captured it. You really, in every way, it was wonderful, just wonderful.
Thank you. Well, it's all due to Mark Shanahan, who not only adapted his own play for radio, but then led us all through it. And Annie Keefe, our longtime associate at the Playhouse, did most of the casting. So it was really, it took a village, but it was really due to Mark and his genius. I haven't been directed by somebody in a long time, and I'm telling you, it was a very soft landing to work with him. So I'm glad it's such a success, and people are loving it. We're hearing nothing but wonderful things, and I think some children even are hearing the story for the first time. And what better way to do that than to hear it rather than see it almost? You're seeing it here, as you said.
And people can hear it again, right? Aren't they also rebroadcasting it?
Yes, it's rebroadcasting on WSHU on the 27th, a couple days after Christmas. But you can hear it now on our website, westportplayhouse.org, and you can hear it on the WSHU website as well. We've partnered together, and we hope this partnership is going to take us through not only the pandemic, but into the future. We really love working with them. So yes, you can hear it as soon as we say goodbye today, or you can wait and hear it on the radio. Yeah. I wanted to just take a walk down memory lane because, Keir, you were in two plays long before I got to the Playhouse. The Star-Spangled Girl, Neil Simon, I love that play, and the famous Butterflies Are Free, which then moved to Broadway for a long run. In fact, by the time I got around to seeing it as a young actor coming into New York, I think I was seeing the third or fourth replacement cast.
Right.
Gloria Swanson and I can't remember everybody else.
Yeah. Well, it was a wonderful production. I was very thrilled to be in it. We had a wonderful director and Blythe Danner, to work with Blythe Danner and Eileen Heckert. It was a wonderful experience. And then I got to do it in a London production of it with Eileen. And they didn't consider Blythe Danner a name enough. Of course, if they should only know, look what happened to her in all those years. But that was her first Broadway production. And so they cast Barbara Ferris, who did Girl in My Soup, if you remember that production. Anyway, yeah. But it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I bet. Did London take to the play? Sometimes it's across the herring pond. It doesn't work out so well.
I don't think they quite. That the comedy quite got them the way it did in this country. Yeah. It didn't go on for as many years as it did here. Uh-huh. Maybe went a couple of months at the most.
Right. And Maya, and here, before we get to Maya, you just reminded me before we went on the air that you and I worked together 33 years ago at the Hartford Stage Company. Yeah. In a wonderful play by a playwright named Alan Havis called Morocco. It was a sort of film noir of a guy played by Keir who sort of gets caught in this web of lies and deceit by his wife, who's Arabian, I believe, and this Moroccan police chief. And it was like a thriller. It was so marvelous, I thought. You did beautiful work in that, just wonderful.
Thank you.
That was a while back.
33 years ago.
33 years ago. And
Yeah.
speaking of Christmas Carol, in your long career, Maya, that was your most recent role, our radio Christmas Carol. You played Mrs. Dilber.
I did. I had a lot of fun doing a Cockney, and actually the first play I did at the Playhouse, I was a Cockney. It was called Once a Catholic. It was 1979. It was a pre-Broadway tryout on the summer stock circuit, and then we went to Broadway, opened, and promptly closed. So that was my first experience. But that's all right, because I had left Da, which was my first Broadway play, and I left that after a year and 3 months to go do this Once a Catholic, which introduced me to the Westport Playhouse. But since then, I've done 7 shows, 2 of which have been directed by you.
Boy, and those 2 shows were no around the park, were they?
They were wonderful, but boy, trying to get them on the boards was, you remember the first day of rehearsal of A Song at Twilight with Brian Murray, and we had, I don't know, it was as bad a snowstorm as we just had last week.
Yeah.
There was a foot of snow in New York, and I took the subway down. You were there when I got there. The stage manager was there, and no Brian. And finally, we got in touch with him, and he was standing on the corner of 42nd Street and 9th Avenue waiting for a bus that never came. And finally, the stage manager, you sent the stage manager down to snag a taxi somewhere. I don't know how he found it, or maybe it was your assistant director.
Yeah.
Finally got a taxi because we were rehearsing at 8th Avenue and 6th Street, 37th Street.
Yeah.
Finally got a taxi, went uptown to 42nd Street to pick poor Brian up. And finally, we got to have our first read-through of the play. And then from standing out there in the cold for an hour, Brian, 2 days later, had pneumonia. So and 3 days without Brian rehearsing the play. It was crazy.
Yeah, and he was certainly not, he was of an age, and we were very, very worried about him. The stage managers were with him at the hospital for 3 days, and I was madly calling the casting office saying, we have a potential catastrophe here. If he's too ill to play, we have to find another person. We were doing, the play is, if some of you saw it, it's Noel Coward's one act called Song at Twilight. And Maya plays
the stage. He's on stage the entire.
The leading man is a senior, and he's a writer. I can't remember what.
Yeah. He's a writer, and he has a wife that I played, who basically is his German housekeeper that he marries to be his beard, because it was a time when you really couldn't be gay in England. And so I played his German wife who takes care of everything. And then he has an old lover, a young woman, well, no longer young, show up with some incriminating love letters from the person that he really should have been able to marry, except in those days it wasn't possible. But speaking of actors in hospitals, you remember our tech rehearsal for the next play I did with you at Westport Playhouse?
Unforgettable. No matter how hard I try to erase that memory, it still comes back in the middle of the night.
That one, which was Lettuce and Lovage, which, by the way, you did the most brilliant cutting and just trimming. I mean, it was a little too British, I think, for us, and your trims just made the play sail, and audiences loved it. However, audiences almost didn't get to see it because remember that rehearsal when Trish, from exhaustion, which turned out to be because she was also of a certain age. You know, she's still, I think, working, but she was on a diuretic that some doctor had put her on years ago and never took her off. And she weighs 90 pounds. She ended up in the hospital, and we had no idea if she was going to be okay. And
it was the timing, you know, whereas poor old Brian Murray was sick at the beginning of our rehearsal journey. Trish was sick 2 days before the first public performance. And
Yeah.
I was having dinner with the design team at the restaurant next door to the Playhouse during our break in the tech rehearsal, if you remember the 10 out of 12.
And those, by the way, audience, those are 12-hour days. Those are exhausting 12-hour days. Yes. So you're on your dinner break.
Everybody's tired. Everybody's a little bit nervous about how things are coming together. And generally, the director, I generally go off with the design team, and we get a little bit sloshed and try to calm down for the evening session. And we had just ordered our food when I saw my assistant come running in looking absolutely apoplectic, saying that Trish Connolly had been rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and that's all they knew. And we gathered back. I had my assistant, Liam, stand in for her role. If you remember Maya, little Liam, 2 years old.
Yes.
So that Maya and Paxton Whitehead could do their movement, and the lighting designer could light them. And then we just stopped the rehearsal at the end of it, and we all hunkered down in the green room. You, Paxton, me, I can't think who else.
Well, Sarah, who's also in Christmas Carol.
Sarah Manson, also in Christmas Carol. And Paxton, of course, plays Scrooge, so it's a family affair.
Yeah.
And Paxton came up with the name of the woman who we were able to convince to come in and take over at the last minute. We canceled 2 previews.
Yeah.
And we rehearsed on a Monday, which is the official day off. She flew in overnight on the red eye from California.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
She was absolutely dazzling in the part. I mean, she just nailed it. But that was, I think I aged 10 years.
Yes, you deserve that drink.
Absolutely. Oh, brother. I got home here that night to our house, and Jerry said, "How are you?" I said, "I just have to make the biggest martini I possibly can. I don't care how late it is, because I've been through hell today."
Well, the irony is that I mean, when you go into a hospital and they don't know what's wrong with you, they keep you there till they find out, and they do every test under the sun, and they couldn't figure it out because she was just dehydrated. That's all that it was.
No.
And as soon as they gave her the saline drip and stopped her on the meds, she was fine.
She was. We were, I think we were a day away from opening when she called me, and I said, "How are you?" And she said, I can come back." I said,
Well, yeah.
like, the ship has sailed, Trish. I can go through this again, So I felt bad, but she was very sweet. She came to see it, and
She did.
very gracious to Candace Chappelle, wonderful.
Yes, but I have to say, it required a lot of adjusting on my part, because I was taller than Trish. Trish, I'm 5'2", and I kind of look down on Trish. And then you get Candace Chappelle, who is a brilliant actress, but Candace is like 5'10". So it was, actually, I think we had it better than the costume designer and our fabulous, brilliant costume, oh gosh, Broadway legend.
Jane Greenwood.
What?
Jane Greenwood.
Oh my God, yes. And the costumes were just gorgeous. But she had to redo the costumes in 2 days.
Oh, 24 hours almost, because there had to be a fitting. There had to be even a new wig made. I mean, people were sewing overnight. It was one of those theater stories that, in retrospect, I think amused people, but when you're living them.
Yeah, and the audience never knows.
Never knew. I mean, we can reveal the secret now. She actually was given an earpiece. And we had this very bright young intern working for us. And I just made them go to their hotel together and practice together. I basically didn't make anybody do anything. I said to Candace, "You tell me what you need. If you don't want to rehearse, we won't rehearse. If you want to rehearse, we'll rehearse. If you want me to be alone with you, whatever you want." She said, "I want to sit with my intern in my room at the Hilton and just work on the line."
Yeah.
And they worked so well together that the intern was able to deliver her lines to her with an earpiece in her ear.
Oh, my.
And she played the whole run with that.
I know. You would never have known. I was on stage with her, and I didn't know. I mean, I knew because I knew, but it was seamless. I really kudos to her. Oh, and did you know that we found out? I don't know whether it was during the run, after the run, that Candace and I have the same birthday. So every year since, Candace and I wish each other a happy birthday.
How great. Oh, Candace Chappelle, a trooper if there ever was one. I mean, she was really amazing. What were other, I remember the first time I saw you, Maya, was in Crimes of the Heart on Broadway. You were in the original cast of that play by Beth Henley. And you were with it for quite a while, as I recall, right?
Yeah, I was with it for, well, we did it first off Broadway in the winter of '82, and then it won the Pulitzer Prize, and then we remounted it on Broadway from the Manhattan Theater Club. We remounted it on Broadway in the fall, and I was with it until the following summer. So, and then we got the original cast back together and did the LA production.
And she was nominated for a Tony.
Oh, right. That's right. Well, richly deserved, too, I must admit.
It was
the night I saw it on Broadway, I'll never forget, because it was the play that everybody had to see that season. It was just this marvelous new voice of Beth's and the three amazing young actresses. And at intermission the night I was there on Broadway, Diane Keaton was in the house. And definitely chatting up somebody during intermission about the role she wanted to play in the film version. Which I think never happened, right?
Oh, yes, it did. But you know what? They got instead of getting a Southerner to direct it, or even an American, they got an Australian to direct it. Bruce Beresford directed the movie. And I'll never forget, in the play, there's a scene where Babe, my character, is so embarrassed by the revealing photographs of her and Willie J in the shed that she wants to kill herself, and she first tries. Oh gosh, what does she first try? Anyway, she grabs a rope, and she's gonna do it. She's gonna do it, and she runs upstairs, and she's got this rope that she's gonna, and there's this silence, and then ka-thunk, and then pause, and then I come down the stairs with this broken rope around my neck. It got a huge laugh every night. It was fabulous. And in the movie, I went to see the movie, and I went by myself on matinee. That scene had violins underneath it. Like, this was so sad because she was trying to kill herself. And I thought, no, this is the whole point. This is a comedy. Anyway, the movie didn't really do much for Diane Keaton's career. So
she ended up in it, right?
She ended up, yes. But at 40 years old, she ended up playing Lenny on stage. It was played by Lisbeth McKay brilliantly. And Lisbeth is supposed to be 28. I think my character is supposed to be 24. And we were very close in age to our characters.
Yeah.
And Lenny, the character that Lisbeth played, that Diane Keaton ended up playing, is upset that she's a spinster at 28, because nobody wants her because she has a shrunken ovary. And
right.
Yes. And so she feels very sorry for herself. Well, a shrunken ovary at age 28 is a lot different, because they did change the ages for the movie, and a shrunken ovary at age 38 is a lot different than a shrunken ovary at age 28, Yeah. Anyway, so there were a lot of mistakes made, but art isn't easy, right?
It sure isn't, and it's fancy too, isn't it? I mean, Keir, did you begin in film? I still remember David and Lisa, that beautiful movie. And I've since watched it 2 or 3 times over the years, and always get so involved in it. Was that your very first sort of?
No, it was the film. It was my second film. It was the film that gave me a film career, actually.
Oh.
I mean, I had done one film, which was a film I'm proud of, but didn't do a lot for my career. It was called The Hoodlum Priest, starring Don Murray.
Oh, sure.
Directed by Irvin Kershner, and it was a good film, but it didn't do a lot for my career. It was really David and Lisa that put me on the map.
And Lisa was played by, remind me,
Janet Margolin,
Janet Margolin, right?
unfortunately, who unfortunately she died prematurely. She had at the age of 50, she had ovarian cancer. So
Right. I remember that was very, very tragic. I thought she was so gifted. The two of you together were.
she did a lot of good films.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. What have been your favorite? I know 2001 is the one that everybody will watch. Long after all of us are gone from the planet. It's still a remarkable film, and I mean, you're wonderful in it.
Yeah,
Was
well,
a difficult experience to
no, not at all. Working with Stanley Kubrick was a dream. He was wonderful with us. He was, I mean, you just knew you were in the presence of mastery. I was a fan of his when I was in drama school. Somebody said, "Hey, there's this great war picture down the street. You got to go see it with Kirk Douglas." I said, "Oh, all right." So I walked there, and it was Paths of Glory.
Yeah.
Well, it was, I mean, it was so brilliant. I'll never forget how I just sat there with my jaw on my lap, seeing the visuals and the performances in that film. So I was a Stanley Kubrick fan long before I did Space Odyssey. So getting to work with this man who was wonderful with us. He was very quiet, never raised his voice, was very supportive. I loved, and watching him work, it was magic. It really was.
I always think too, one of the major roles in that film that's just chilling is the person, well, the being you never see, which is Hal, who was played by Douglas Rain, a marvelous Canadian actor. I was seeing Douglas at Stratford often, and the chill of that voice every time it speaks.
He was perfect
at the end of the
to work with. Stanley discovered him in post-production. Meanwhile, we just had the assistant director do the voice of Hal. Well, it was a British cast because it was filmed in north of London, the whole film. And this was the voice of Hal for us. "Oh, sorry about that, Dave. I can't, it's all like that." Yeah, it was the voice of Hal for us. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
So that took acting.
So you didn't really hear the real Hal.
I saw the film.
Wow.
2 years later.
Oh, how amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And I remember that device just as a dramatic device being so completely chilling and so terrifying that a machine was actually trying to kill you, you and Gary Raymond, right? It's
Gary Lockwood.
Gary Lockwood.
He does end up killing Gary, before Keir pulls the plug on him.
That's right. Oh my God. Well, we must say goodbye. Our time is nearly up. We just have a minute or two, but I do want to thank you both again for spending a few days before Christmas, having a cocktail with me and our subscribers and the people watching this. I also want to remind everybody that Christmas Carol is also available on YouTube, our radio Christmas Carol. So we have many ways to listen to Maya's performance as well as Paxton's delicious Scrooge.
It's amazing. Mark, we got to put it on stage when we can go back on stage.
I would love that. Well, let's coach going back on stage at the Westport Playhouse together.
Yeah.
Much love, guys. Thank you so much.